The world of artificial intelligence just got a lot more complicated. DeepSeek has officially launched its V4 large language model. This is not just a routine update. It features a Pro variant with 1.6 trillion parameters and a Flash variant with 284 billion parameters. But the real story is not just the numbers. It is where these models run. They are optimized for Huawei domestic Ascend chips rather than the restricted Nvidia hardware that dominates the industry. This strategic pivot allows DeepSeek to bypass United States export controls while introducing a 1 million token context window and aggressive pricing that is reportedly 10 times lower than United States competitors. However, this technical milestone coincides with escalating geopolitical tensions. The United States government, citing claims from OpenAI and Anthropic, has accused DeepSeek and other Chinese firms of industrial-scale intellectual property theft. They allege the use of proxy accounts to distill proprietary United States models. DeepSeek and the Chinese Foreign Ministry firmly dismissed these allegations as groundless, insisting their training data was collected naturally via web crawling. While sources agree on the model specifications, pricing, and the existence of United States accusations, there is a notable knowledge gap regarding the specific evidence supporting the United States intellectual property theft claims or technical proof of the alleged distillation methods. The launch thus represents a collision of significant technological advancement and intensifying United States-China disputes over semiconductor supply chains and intellectual property rights. Now consider the hardware situation. For years, the narrative has been that advanced artificial intelligence requires United States graphics processing units. Nvidia chips have been the gold standard for training large models. When the United States government restricted access to these chips for Chinese companies, many analysts predicted that Chinese artificial intelligence development would stall. They assumed that without access to the latest Nvidia hardware, Chinese firms could not train models with enough parameters to compete. DeepSeek V4 challenges this assumption directly. By achieving state-of-the-art performance on domestic Huawei Ascend chips, DeepSeek demonstrates that Chinese artificial intelligence firms can build advanced infrastructure independently. This signals a critical decoupling from Nvidia infrastructure. It creates a parallel artificial intelligence ecosystem that is independent of Western hardware. If a company needs to build a massive model but cannot buy the best processors, they have to find a way to make the processors they have work better. This requires deep optimization. It suggests that DeepSeek has focused on algorithmic efficiency rather than just throwing more compute at the problem. Here is the thing about the United States accusations. The claim is that DeepSeek stole code or data from American models. The idea is that they used proxy accounts to distill proprietary information. Distillation is a technical process where you take a large model and try to teach a smaller model to mimic its behavior. Imagine a chef trying to recreate a complex dish by tasting the final plate rather than seeing the recipe. That is what distillation is. If DeepSeek had simply stolen the weights or the code from a United States model, they would likely run it on the same hardware that model was built on. They would not need to optimize for a different architecture. The fact that they have successfully ported a model of this magnitude to Huawei chips suggests they built the architecture themselves. You cannot simply copy a United States model and expect it to run efficiently on Chinese hardware without significant reworking. That reworking requires understanding the underlying mathematics of the model. It requires genuine engineering. This points towards a breakthrough in how the model is structured rather than a simple copy of proprietary data. Let us talk about the scale for a moment. 1.6 trillion parameters is a massive number. To understand what that means, think of a neural network like a vast library of connections. Each parameter is a connection point that determines how information flows through the system. When you increase the number of parameters, you increase the model capacity to understand nuance and context. A model with 1.6 trillion parameters has a significantly larger memory and reasoning capability than earlier versions. DeepSeek claims their Flash variant with 284 billion parameters outperforms other open-source alternatives in coding and reasoning. Benchmarks indicate V4 trails top United States closed-source models like the one developed by OpenAI by 3 to 6 months. This is a gap, but it is narrowing. The speed of this development is what worries Washington. If they can achieve this on domestic hardware, they do not need United States chips to continue advancing. There is also the economic angle. The pricing is reportedly 10 times lower than United States competitors. This suggests a strategy of democratization through scale. They are flooding the market with affordable, high-performance artificial intelligence. This forces United States companies to compete on price and performance simultaneously. It challenges the business model that relies on scarcity and high cost. By making the technology accessible, they are building a user base that relies on their ecosystem. If developers start building applications on DeepSeek because it is cheaper and runs on available hardware, they become locked into that ecosystem. This makes the United States accusations of theft look even more like a reaction to a market disruption. The United States government framing the technical achievement as a national security threat involving alleged stolen proprietary data looks like an attempt to regain competitive ground. So what does this mean for the future? The integration of the V4 model with Huawei Ascend chips demonstrates that Chinese artificial intelligence firms can achieve state-of-the-art performance on domestic hardware. This challenges the narrative that United States chip dominance is an insurmountable barrier to advanced artificial intelligence development. The United States government alleges intellectual property theft, but the technical evidence required to prove that distillation occurred on a different hardware architecture remains unverified. DeepSeek insists their training data was collected naturally via web crawling. While the specific evidence supporting the United States claims is not public, the technical reality of the launch stands on its own. A model of this size running on alternative hardware is a feat of engineering. Whether it was built from scratch or refined from stolen code, the result is the same. It works. It works on chips that the United States government tried to ban. Thanks for watching all the way to the end. I am a one-person team working hard to make each video better than the last. Subscribe if you found value. It is the best way to show support. Drop a comment with your biggest takeaway. See you in the next video.